You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Greetings, explorers. I'm one of your hosts, Aubrey, joined by
Dennis
and
Johnny.
Today we are discussing About Betty's Boob by writer Véro Cazot and artist Julie Rocheleau. We hope you've read today's title because all three of us have read the book, so beware, spoilers ahead. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available wherever fine podcasts are found, including YouTube. So be sure to leave a review and subscribe wherever you listen to the show.
All right, everyone. That's right. We're back with a new episode, second episode of our sixth season of the podcast. And we're looking at About Betty's Boob, written by Véro Cazot, illustrated by Julie Rocheleau. I know I'm butchering these names, but I love doing a terrible French accent. Lettering by Darren Bennett. That's not really all that Frenchy, but and then published by Archaia Entertainment, which is an imprint of Boom Studios, who's done some really good comic books. If you go to our website and you just type in Boom Studios, you'll see the books that we have reviewed. I think the Beasts of Burden is Boom Studios, which we thoroughly enjoyed a couple of years ago.
I also have to say, I've lost track of how many foreign authors or artists we've covered, but I always enjoy their take on things. I think we've had another French book. Was that World War II book was French, right? Technically speaking?
Yeah, the book we read, the second book that we read, I guess one of the second books we read, was The Golden Age, Book 1, which was another French duo, French writer and a French illustrator. That book was amazing. Amazing art. Just like this book, amazing art. Long line of fantastic French artists. Isn't Tintin, or was he Belgium?
I think I was Belgian.
Belgian, yeah.
He's Belgium. But yeah, amazing comics.
But yeah, like I probably said in previous episodes, I always either am American-centric or, I think about Japanese manga. I don't often think about Europe as being, a hotbed for talent, but obviously I'm clearly wrong. And there's quite a number of stories that come from there that are amazing.
I believe, and if I get this wrong, please, someone out there, one of the explorers, set me straight. But I believe French and Belgian comics were put out, and especially in the 60s and the 50s, in very high volumes because Italian readers loved them. So a lot of that output was directed towards the French reader or Italian readers.
Right.
It's one of those triangles. It's something like that. Or maybe it was Italian comics were for French readers. But we are on Patreon Explorers, and we've got a lot of new stuff coming out through our Patreon, like author interviews. You're going to get early access to episodes and a bunch of other stuff. So go check that out if you want to listen or support the podcast through Patreon. We would love that.
Patronize us.
Yeah, patronize us. But the story of About Betty's Boob is Betty is a young woman who is, prior to the start of the comic book, diagnosed with breast cancer. And the book picks up with her basically right after having her left breast removed. And then after losing her breast, she loses her boyfriend, or breaks up with her boyfriend, or boyfriend breaks up with her, depending on how you want to look at it. She loses her job. And through that, she finds her way into the arms of a burlesque troupe. And from there, she kind of comes to terms with her new body and being comfortable in her new body. And while these are some very heavy topics, this was actually a very funny book.
It should also be pointed out that this virtually has no dialogue. It's almost told entirely through pictures. In fact, the fact that she has cancer, I thought was pretty smartly done. Shows a bunch of crabs, obviously the astrology sign, crawling all over her. And yeah, there's pretty much no dialogue with the exception of a few pages.
Oh, I was just going to brag because I took 2 years of French in high school, so I didn't need to translate this book at all because I ruined all of it.
Look at you.
Dennis ruined it.
Les fancy pants.
No, yeah, it's very, very cool. There's lyrics. I think lyrics are the only text that you get, and there's like a couple exclamations.
Yeah, once or twice someone yells Betty.
Right, when they're introducing her to the cabaret burlesque show.
A lot of the street signs and stuff, or like the buildings that she goes into in the story, I looked up to see what it is. At one point, she goes into a store to get a... Well, we'll get to that through her boss. This book is a condemnation of capitalism. what happens to Betty. But yeah, so picks up, like Dennis was saying, with her in this kind of fever dream after coming out of her anesthesia with these crabs crawling all over. And I love that. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, cancer, crab. I get it. I see. And I kept expecting dialogue to start up. And then after 2 or 3 pages, like, oh, it's going to be one of those books, like the Park Bench.
I was also expecting it to be more grounded, which it's not a bad assessment of the book itself. It's just I thought it was going to be, with the cancer, a more realistic take. It's semi-hyper real, which I actually enjoyed. I liked that it wasn't so grounded as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I feel like the book felt like jazz. Like it has an exploratory structure to it, and also because it had no words, I felt like I was just hearing music playing while reading it. Like I could, those like instrumental scores where they like punctuate what's happening, almost like a silent movie. I was like hearing that playing in my head while reading it.
Like old Warner Brothers cartoons, how they would use music to tell you what was happening in there. See, I got more of a silent film because there's even title cards, like black and white title cards in between new chapters. And it felt like a silent film to me, but I definitely get the jazz reference after you said it.
Yeah, and even like the way the artist drew the characters and their motion. I mean, obviously, because there's a lack of dialogue, there was almost a dance to the way they moved and
it's very fluid and liquid.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So after she gets out of the hospital, her and her boyfriend are trying to get back into their new life, and he is very much not supportive, or he seems to be more affected by it than she does about her mastectomy, and needs to be consoled more than she does. At one point, he keeps rebuffing her advances for like romance and affection, and he passes out several times. At one of the points when she passes out, she's had enough and drags him outside of their apartment and locks him out, and her wig comes off, and the wig is very animated. The wig has a life of its own through the wind, so it's very dancerly. That I thought, is dancerly a word? I just made up a word. Sure. I think.
Yeah, that's how language works.
I liked how. What's it? Yeah, I'm free.
It's like
I'm free.
Johnny's scatting over here.
I'm scatting over here. Zoobity doo bop bop.
Dancer.
I'm starting up a scat podcast here soon, guys.
Be careful with that word search.
I was just say both
scatology,
both in feces and in the musical form. One of the things I really liked about this book, and one of the things that was kind of detracted from it a little bit, but was, I think, intentional in like that free form kind of jazzy sense, is there was times I was like, what's going on here? I couldn't quite figure out stuff. And apparently she either wanted to look at her removed breast that was going to be biopsied, or they were bringing her a fake one. But the jar that these removed breasts, these cancerous breasts were in, these jars, like for them to be studied, her jar, the serial number was 80085. And I thought that was hilarious.
I noticed that. Yeah. That was also the price when she goes into the boob shop. That's how much they cost. Right. Also, was 8008.
And that scene, that definitely was a scene where she goes in to buy her. So she tries to go back to work. I'm like, man, that boss had no sympathy for her. She tries to go back to work, and she doesn't like the feel of the fake breast. So she puts an apple in there, but the apple keeps like rolling around in her bra. And the boss, and she works at a retail store selling clothes, like a high-end place like that. And the boss keeps seeing her apple boob fall and go all over the place. So she forces her to go get a fake one. And while she's there, some people break in to steal the breasts. I don't know what they were.
Yeah. I didn't understand that scene at all. I had no idea what was happening for that whole segment.
Yeah. So
Dennis,
essentially,
did you understand it?
Yeah. No, people were breaking in to basically steal the breasts. And she fights off one of the robbers and then basically wins the fight. And then she can't actually afford the breast. She realizes it's way too much. So right before they had started the robbery, I think she was going to go and return it. But then she decides, you know what, I'm going to keep this for me. And so she forces the robber, so the robber isn't humiliated because they lost, to help her escape. And so she escapes with the breast.
Which she winds up ditching later.
Right. Well, that's the thing is they go back to these robbers because they're stealing these breasts. And it seems that she made it popular to have just one breast. So they realize that they don't need them. So they actually return all the stolen breasts they stole at the very end of the story.
They did? I missed that. How did I miss that?
I didn't catch that either.
Oh, yeah. No, they're actually throwing bags of boobs back at the store owner, which, you know, I mean, the store owner was kind of like, what's her name from The Incredibles? It was kind of this.
Edna Mode.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt kind of bad for her. I mean, I'm sure her stuff is very pricey, but I mean, she wasn't like the shop owner that Betty had worked at. I think she was just kind of a expensive artisanal boob maker. So,
and her store was called the Holy Grail. I had to look up the name of the store is the Holy Grail.
Which I really liked her because, you know, she fitted her like I would imagine a woman is fitted with a really fancy bra. Like she, you know, it was a very boutique kind of store. So I didn't feel that she kind of deserved to be stolen. Yes, they were expensive, but that was the price for having these artisanal boobs. And she really cared about the person who was, you know, going to wear them and wanted them to fit right and look right and make that person feel empowered and not feel like they're missing something. So I felt she was doing a good thing. So I felt kind of bad that she was being robbed and kind of that Betty was stealing from her.
I also think that's part of the story is Betty's journey on accepting herself.
Oh, for sure.
Not needing an artificial breast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's her journey though, because I think the shop was done dirty because that Betty's ultimately coming to the end of her journey, which is I don't need to pretend it's there when it's not there. But I think it's valid that other people might just want to have symmetry. And then there's also trans women and drag queens who will wear like breastplates for performances or just because they want to, which is also valid. And those actually are very expensive because silicone materials to make nice boobs, like so they feel good and they like feel good under the fabric. It actually is really expensive to make. So it's like legitimately $8,000 is too much, but a good breastplate I think will run you like $1,000 because it costs a lot to make. Oh. So she was done dirty in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And the boobs she was making weren't just formed right. I mean, they were like bejeweled, I think, and they looked
one of them
really fancy,
pierced,
right?
Boobdazzled.
Yeah, exactly. So I will say, if there's one critique, is I felt that the shop owner didn't deserve what happened to her.
Yeah.
And her business goes under at the end. She's having a liquidation sale. Yeah, she got screwed over. But apparently, at the end, Betty's ex-boyfriend and her ex-boss wind up falling in love and like no consequences for her.
So that was fascinating. I'm glad you brought it up because, you know, usually in these kind of stories, the villains, quote unquote, get their comeuppance, right? And they realize they've been wronged, but they're forced to suffer, you know, in poverty or something like that. They actually get a happy ending, which was fascinating because I found the boyfriend to be very vile. Like, I didn't understand his point of view. And, you know, I've read many stories about, you know, people dealing with this sort of thing, but I can't imagine someone would be so, you know, displeased that, you know, their partner had cancer and suddenly they're missing one boob and they're completely rejecting them. I understand maybe it takes a bit of an adjustment, but for him to be like that is kind of horrifying. And the boss, obviously, being the capitalist she is with her not so subtle $ earrings and such, obviously she's an awful person. So for them to find love, I mean, it seems wrong, but maybe that's a European way of like, everyone can have a happy ending, even the bad people.
Well, I mean, is it a happy ending? Is two horrible people being horrible together a happy ending?
Right. Who knows what their future relationship will look like, but still it's implied at least they were happy in that moment.
Oh, I liked what Johnny said earlier because you said there's like an allegory about capitalism, and that made me think that relationship was actually an allegory, and what really happened is that guy fell in love with capitalism, so he's just like living for money now, and he's not really, you know, living for love or being himself.
Superficial love. I mean, yes, the boyfriend was absolutely terrible, but I also looked at it as like, some people can't deal with illness and someone depending on them like that, and I feel like he was just kind of a weak person. I don't necessarily, not evil per se, but just a weak person who couldn't handle his girlfriend's body changing, and I freaked out over it. And then, Betty, being the stronger of the two, was like, well, then good, I'll go. Just get the hell out of here. I'll handle it myself then,
Well, he literally had like a weak stomach because he was making these attempts to still be romantic with her, like get her flowers and make her heart-shaped pancakes and stuff like that. But then he would like throw up and pass out when he saw her. So it was, I mean, that's almost, he's an asshole, but that is an involuntary reaction. Like you don't choose to faint and throw up. But what a horrible thing to experience on the other end of it.
For sure. Yeah. If you were on the receiving end of that, because there's a few times when she tries to initiate sex and they flash back and forth between when her body, before she got sick and was, like that's what he longed for, and he couldn't accept her new body.
I thought that was her imagining that's what he wanted. I didn't think that was inside of his head.
Sorry, yeah, that's that's what I meant. I didn't say it correctly.
But you're right, Aubrey. I mean, legitimately, some people have, are a fear of, something medical or something like that. So I was able to forgive it initially when they brought out the solitary boob and he saw it, because that's just like, well, why would you just want to see that? That could be horrifying to him just to see it isolated in a cup. But then when it showed like he didn't want to touch her, and when it seemed like he touched that area, he just suddenly went cold. That's when I kind of felt like he was kind of a monster. Or, I'm sorry, just not a nice guy.
Just not understanding. And then later, she winds up kind of running into this troupe of female performers and one male performer. And I thought at first, I was like, do they all have some sort of change to their body? Because one of the women is an amputee, like her below the knee amputee. But they're all part of this burlesque troupe where they'll strip and stuff. And
yeah, they don't have what you would say atypical bodies, right?
Like Hollywood style.
Right, exactly. Like stereotypical, what people would imagine is attractive bodies. But they're obviously attractive. But, like one lady doesn't have large breasts, I believe. I think the man is implied to have a small penis. But it's showing that, look, you don't have to fit what you would call the quote unquote norm to be attractive.
Yeah, and I think that is actually a factor of burlesque. Like I think in real life burlesque, that is, they don't look like Hollywood actors and actresses. They're just like
it's
regular people. Yeah, regular people. Well, usually, freaks and misfits who often have like an alternative look and like have tattoos and stuff like that. I think that's an accurate portrayal of a burlesque community.
Yeah.
Like Aubrey, like you said, I mean, burlesque is a celebration of the body and, being sexy in whatever body you're born in. And so it's this troupe is just an example of it. The one that's in the book.
And while she's there, they encourage her to come out of her shell. They push her, not in a bad way, but they kind of push her into, you should perform with us. You're part of us. You're part of our group. This was my favorite part of the book, was when she was with the performers.
Yeah, and I loved how they leaned into the fact that she had one boob. Don't hide it, don't ignore it, but actually make it part of the act. Let everyone see that you only have one boob and, show that you're still sexy. So I thought it was really great to see her come into her own. And yeah, much like Aubrey said, and it really did nail it for me, is that I did feel with the different colors and the motion within the illustrations that I almost felt this jazz music and this frantic trumpet going on. And it was amazing to see, without any dialogue, these scenes kind of come to life through, I guess, a collaboration between your own imagination and what's presented to you from the illustrations.
So Betty winds up starting a relationship with the male performer in their troupe. And at one point he offers her an apple, or someone has an apple, and she takes a bite of it, and then he takes a bite out of it. And I thought that maybe that meant because apples kind of are throughout the kind of a motif throughout the story, that I thought maybe that was him accepting her body and who she is.
Yeah. He literally does accept her body later on when he like kisses her scar and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a cool observation. I didn't notice that.
She's accepting of him, and what is infer that he has a small penis. Like she doesn't care. Like she just loves the guy. And then towards the end, they have a ceremony. It took me a couple times to read this, where they take this round box, and I think that's where her removed breast is. And I think they gave it to her, or I could be wrong, or maybe it was the silicone breast, and they buried it. And he says something to the effect of like, "So long to my brother." And I had to go back and reread that a couple times. I was like, oh, they're burying her boob, and that's the boob's brother. They're saying goodbye to the brother. It took me a couple times to read that. This is definitely, I want to reread this a few times. I feel like there's things I definitely missed.
Well, especially without the dialogue, I will say that's the one detriment, but you probably gain it from further readings, is that initially you don't always pick up on the visual cues, because you're right. The whole scene in the beginning with the doctor presenting the new breast, or what is a breast, but we're not sure. Is it the new one? Is it the one that they cut out? It's kind of confusing. And then at the end where they're burying it, you're not entirely sure what's happening unless you look into it a little further.
Yeah, I will say that's something I struggled with reading this. Like, I loved the story, I loved the message, I loved the art, I loved that it felt like jazz, but I really struggled with the lack of dialogue and text at all. Something to keep in mind, but definitely something worth looking at multiple times. So that has its merits too.
Normally, I do not like dream sequences and things. I just, it's very cheesy to me. I don't know why. I just don't like dream sequences and things. But the dream sequences, there's several in this book, are very vivid and like visceral. Like there's times when her breast is like decaying off of her.
Wasn't it chopped up at one point?
Mm-hmm.
Or her head gets chopped up. There's like slices coming off of her brain, like when she's. I assume that meant like she was kind of overwhelmed, but I could very well be wrong about that. But I actually really enjoyed the dream sequences in the book.
Yeah, very visceral. I will say also something else to keep in mind. I was trying to eat while I read this. I had to stop eating because a lot of the imagery like that, it just goes right to your gut. And I was like, this is not compatible with eating a nice meal.
Don't lie. It was Marie Callender's chicken fettuccine.
Ew.
That was always a treat at our house because we ate a lot of hamburger helper growing up, and tuna helper, whatever, all the helper lines. Our family was very well fed with those. But once in a while, my mom would like spring for let's get the Marie Callender's chicken fettuccine.
Nice.
Like, oh, sweet. We're going. Oh, mom's going fancy with the frozen food tonight.
Wait, Dennis or Johnny, do you not like dream sequences because you don't have dreams?
Actually, that might be why I rarely remember my dreams. I like go to sleep and I wake up. I'm usually not conscious of them even when I'm asleep.
Oh, really?
That's wild.
Yeah. Once in a blue moon, I'll be aware of a dream, but most of the time I just go to sleep and then I wake up.
Wow.
How about you, Aubrey? Do you have dreams?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I dream every night. I usually remember them. They will like fade after. There's like the sweet spot 20 minutes after you wake up where you can really remember them vividly, and then it fades over time.
I do have some dreams that I still remember from when I was a kid, and occasionally, I think other people have this too. I have some dreams that I'm pretty sure I revisit. Like there's a reoccurring like town that I go to.
Oh, crazy!
Yeah, and sometimes I'm wondering, am I dreaming that I'm remembering, or am I really remembering?
Maybe it's like the episode, probably the best episode of The Next Generation, where Jean-Luc is living in the memory of that civilization that died out.
I don't play a pipe afterwards though.
Well, you won't know until you won't know until the end of the thing, until the satellite.
Maybe I'm dreaming right now. Maybe I'm in a dream.
We're all part of it. And then at the end of your life, you'll look around and like I'll have already been dead for 20 years. And you're like, Johnny, what are you doing here? I'm like, Jean-Luc. So, final thoughts on the book?
I really loved it. I thought I wasn't sure when I realized that there was going to be zero dialogue, but I found the visual language to be compelling. The artwork, fantastic. All the characters looked unique. I was afraid that, they're all going to look the same. But no, every character had a unique design to them. The colors, really popped for me. Realistic colors. It was an artistic
It's vibrant.
Yeah, but it's very vibrant. I love the character designs. And yeah, overall, amazing book. I thought it dealt well with the trauma of your body changing and having to deal with that. And, trying to rebuild a life. Everything from losing her boyfriend to finding some 1 minute stand in a restroom to, finally finding a new career. I thought it was all amazing. And it was a very compelling story.
That was an interesting scene to me because she was dancing and dancing and dancing with 2 or 3 different guys. And then the last guy goes down on her in the bathroom. And that was a really like touching moment because I'm like, she wants to have sex, but I feel like that's at that point in her journey, that was the only thing she was comfortable doing was, having someone go down on her, not fully naked and engaging in intercourse.
Waist down only.
Yeah.
I have so many good things to say about it. I think it's a masterfully crafted exploration of trauma in this really unique way. That said, let me say, I think anyone should read it. Like, anyone should check it out with the understanding that it doesn't have dialogue or text. Because that said, I had a really hard time reading it, and I kind of didn't enjoy actually reading it. Like, I enjoy the concept of it, and I enjoy, like, the art, but it was, for me, and the way my brain works, it was incredibly frustrating because I was constantly confused and, like, would have to, like, search the images to try to figure out what was going on. And again, that's just me. That's not anything on the artist or anything like that. So it was a little bit of a struggle for me to read for that reason, but I think it is a great piece of art, and I would recommend that people check it out.
That's what NPR's review of the book was. Like, it's masterfully drawn. It's a very interesting story that doesn't take not a tragicomic approach to it. It's more real. In a book like this, it's more diverse, I guess, in its approach to like telling this person's story. But that was one of the critiques they had, was it was kind of a mess to follow.
I was going to say, it's just without the words, there's no speed bump, sort of. And so I almost found myself blazing through it too quickly, and I had to self-regulate and kind of slow down because you just look through the images and it's like, a flurry of drawings, and you're just kind of going through it without the speed bump of words to kind of slow you down and think about and process the dialogue. So in some ways, I totally get what you're saying, Aubrey, in terms of it being difficult, because I essentially read it twice at least, and I still feel like I need to read it again to fully get everything. And it's because there wasn't any dialogue to kind of slow me down, to let me process things and give me some more clues about the imagery I was seeing. I was just kind of basically speed reading it.
Because there's a scene where her ex-boyfriend goes back to her parents' house, and there's a drawing of the parent. He walks in, the parents see him, and you can tell he comes from an affluent family. The mom, his mother, greets him. His mom and I'm assuming the dad, are sitting in like a tea room kind of parlor area inside their house. They're both sitting in chairs, like fancy upholstered chairs. And then she realizes, like, oh, my son's coming back home to live with me. And this drawing of half a triangle, like an isosceles triangle, and a square with a dotted line through the two. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then it must have had something to do with rearranging the room to accommodate him, because the next scene, there's a couch in the living room. And I was like, what? I don't understand what any of that meant.
Well, yeah, for me, it almost seemed to me, I thought it took a, Looney Tunes almost aspect at that point, where she just basically repurposed the furniture and made a couch so that he could fit in, so that it balanced everything out and no one was uncomfortable.
Because there's a time jump, like it's immediately fixed. Like that's the sort of realistic fantasy thing that happens here. But anyways, well, Aubrey, where can people follow you or check out your podcast?
Oh, please follow my podcast Twitter at Bring Popcorn Pod and listen to my other podcast, Bring Your Own Popcorn, wherever fine podcasts are found.
And Dennis, where can folks follow our podcast?
On Twitter and Instagram at GN Explorers Club.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. Be sure to check out our Patreon and follow us on our social medias. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Harmony.
Sorry, save it for the podcast, not save it. Shut your mouth. Everyone just shut your mouth.
I'm the star.